Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Anganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapradakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragnatan Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Haripriya Panchakalpa Tuyubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nicham Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So today is the auspicious anniversary of the appearance day of Lord Ramachandra, Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, Ki Jai. And so just this morning before Japa, we were reading some excerpts of a transcription of a lecture that Prabhupada gave on Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, Ram Nomi. It was in 1969 in Hawaii. And Srila Prabhupada started the lecture by quoting the Brahma Samhita verse. Ramadi Mortishu Kalani Amena Tishtan Nana Vatara Nakarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Parama Pumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So that verse describes Eke Jamsakala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That verse describes how Sri Krishna is the source, Govinda, Sri Krishna, the source of all incarnations, and incarnations are more numerous than the waves of the sea, avatars of God, Nana Avatar, Nakaro, Bhuvaneshu Kintu. And the verse, Lord Brahma's prayers to Govinda there specifically says Ramadi Mortishu. So the way Brahma words it, and Prabhupada emphasizes this, is Ramadi Mortishu, that Krishna is the source and origin of all the incarnations of the personality of Godhead. such as Lord Ramachandra and others, meaning so many incarnations. We, in the Bhagavatam, we hear about 25 or so prominent incarnations, avatars. And one sense, incarnation can imply like carnate, like physical body. So that would be an incorrect understanding. That's why sometimes avatar can be a technically more appropriate term, but Prabhupada uses incarnation also. So there's so many incarnations, some of them particularly well known in human society. And of all of them, Ramachandra is prominent. And so that's why Brahma says, like Lord Ramachandra and so many others, he specifically mentions Ramadi Mortishu, the form of Ramachandra. So Lord Ramachandra is especially important incarnation. Probably the two most well-known forms of the personality of Godhead in India are Lord Krishna and Lord Ramachandra, and perhaps Lord Ramachandra is even more popular than Krishna in many places, and so when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that this is that the Rama refers to, Prabhupada makes it clear, it can refer either to Lord Ramachandra or Lord Balaram, Krishna's brother. So they're both correct. They are both correct. And so every day is a wonderfully auspicious day to hear and chant about the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. And then his appearance day is a special day to give hearing and chanting and remembrance to those pastimes which are they're most prominently, extensively described in the Ramayana. Prabhupada quotes from the Ramayana a lot. And there are so many versions of Ramayana in English. And Ramayana, call it a summarized version of Ramayana, is given in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is 9th canto part 2 in this printing, 9th canto part 2. And so there are, two main chapters that describe the pastime of Lord Ramachandra. I remember that because most years we would read chapter 10 of Canto 9. So last year we read chapter 11, which is also about the past. Chapter 11 is entitled Lord Ramachandra Rules the World. And chapter 10 is entitled The Pastimes of the Supreme Lord Ramachandra. Last year, when Ramachandra's appearance, we read from chapter 11. So this year we'll go back to chapter 10. And in one sense, these are the pastimes that are generally more well-known, the ones described in chapter 10. Okay, so I'm reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10. I'll start with Srila Prabhupada's summary of the chapter. The chapter is entitled The Pastimes of the Supreme Lord Ramachandra. This 10th chapter describes how Lord Ramachandra appeared in the dynasty of Maharaj Katvanga. It also describes the Lord's activities, telling how he killed Ravana and returned to Ayodhya, the capital of his kingdom. The son of Maharaj Katvanga was Dirgabahu, and his son was Raghu. The son of Raghu was Aja, the son of Aja was Dasharat, and the son of Dasharat was Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the Lord descended into this world in his full quadruple expansion, as Lord Ramachandra, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrugna, great sages like Valmiki, who were actually in knowledge of the absolute truth, described his pastimes, his transcendental pastimes. Srila Shukadeva Goswami describes these pastimes in brief. So Valmiki is the author or the revealer of the Ramayana. So Prabhupada references him here. Lord Ramachandra went with Vishvamitra and killed Rakshasas like Maricha. After breaking the stout and strong bow known as Haridanu, the Lord married Mother Sita and cut down the prestige of Parashuram. To obey the order of his father, he entered the forest accompanied by Lakshman and Sita. There he cut off the nose of Shurpanaka and killed the associates of Ravana, headed by Kara and Dushana. Ravana's kidnapping of Sitadevi was the beginning of this demon's misfortune. When Maricha assumed the form of a golden deer, Lord Ramachandra went to bring the deer to please Sitadevi. But in the meantime, Ravana took advantage of the Lord's absence to kidnap her. When Sitadevi was kidnapped, Lord Ramachandra, accompanied by Lakshmana, searched for her throughout the forest. In the course of this search, they met Jatayu. Then the Lord killed the demon Kabanda and the commander Bali and established a friendly relationship with Sugriva. After organizing the military strength of the monkeys and going with them to the shore of the sea, the Lord awaited the arrival of Samudra, the ocean personified. But when Samudra did not come, the Lord, the master of Samudra, became angry. Then Samudra came to the Lord with great haste and surrendered to him, wanting to help him in every way. The Lord then attempted to bridge the ocean, and with the help of advice from Vibhishan, he attacked Ravana's capital, Lanka. I'll just mention Vibhishan is Ravana's brother. And then Vibhishan, he switched to Ramachandra's side. Previously, Hanuman, the eternal servant of the Lord, had set fire to Lanka, and now, with the help of Lakshmana, the forces of Lord Ramachandra killed all the Rakshasa soldiers. Then, Lord Ramachandra personally killed Ravana. Mandodari and other wives lamented for Ravana, and in accordance with Lord Ramachandra's order, Vibhishana performed the funeral ceremonies for all the dead in the family. When Lord Ramachandra then gave Vibhishan the right to rule Lanka and also granted him a long duration of life, the Lord delivered Sitadevi from the Ashoka forest and carried her in a flower airplane to his capital, Ayodhya, where he was received by his brother Bharat. When Lord Ramachandra entered Ayodhya, Bharat brought his wooden shoes. Vibhishan and Sugriva held a whisk and fan. Hanuman carried an umbrella. Shatrughna carried the Lord's bow and 2 quivers, and Sitadevi carried a water pot containing water from holy places. Angada carried a sword, and Jambavan Riksharaj carried a shield. After Lord Ramachandra, accompanied by Lord Lakshman and Mother Sitadevi, met all his relatives, the great sage Vasishta enthroned him as king. The chapter ends with a short description of Lord Ramachandra's rule in Ayodhya. So that's Prabhupada's summary of this 10th chapter of the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Katvanga Dirga Bahus Charagush Tasmat Pritushrava Ajastato Maharajas Tasma Dasharato Bhavat. Shukadev Goswami said, the son of Maharaj Katvanga was Dirgabahu, and his son was the celebrated Maharaj Raghu. From Maharaj Raghu came Aja, and from Aja was born the great personality Maharaj Dasarat. Being prayed for by the demigods, the supreme personality of Godhead, the absolute truth himself, directly appeared with his expansion and expansions of the expansion. Their holy names were Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna. These celebrated incarnations thus appeared in 4 forms as the sons of Maharaj Dasarat. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Ramachandra and his brothers, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna, are all Vishnu Tattva, not Jiva Tattva. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands into many, many forms. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam. Although they are one and the same, Vishnu Tattva has many forms and incarnations, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.39. Ramadi Mortishu Kalani Amena Tishtan. The Lord is situated in many forms, such as Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrugna, and these forms may exist in any part of his creation. All these forms exist permanently, eternally, as individual personalities of Godhead, and they resemble many candles, all equally powerful. Lord Ramachandra, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrugna, who, being Vishnu Tattva, are all equally powerful, became the sons of Maharaj Dasarat in response to prayers by the demigods. So these, Prabhupada makes it clear, these are all Vishnu Tattva, Ramachandra, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrugna. So their bodies are not material. Like there can be some conception that, like, well, if we can't see the personality of Godhead, then he doesn't exist. No, he exists, but it's about what's the capacity of our material vision. So as we purify our senses, we realize the forms of Vishnu, of God. And then there can also be the misconception that, like, well, if they're appearing in personalities like Maharaj Dasarat or Arjuna is seeing the forms of Krishna and Ramachandra and Shatrugna, if they're seeing them, then those forms must be limited, like my forms, like this form and your form and the form of that chair and the form of everyone we know. But no. So sure, the purified souls can realize and see the forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and those forms are unlimited. Prabhupada emphasizes that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh my Lord, oh my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, oh all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So Vasudeva means the personality that is all-pervading, the living personality that's all-pervading. So that's not possible to conceive with material vision or material eyes. So here's a personality, at the same time, it's personality with a form, Vigraha, that is all-pervading, that is in every atom and in our hearts. Okay, so these are the forms of Ramachandra, transcendental forms. So text 3 reads, Tasyanucharitam Rajan Rishibis Tattvadarshibhi Shrutam hi Varnitam Bhuri Tvayasita Pater Mohu. O King Parikshit, the transcendental activities of Lord Ramachandra have been described by great saintly persons who have seen the truth. Because you have heard again and again about Lord Ramachandra, the husband of Mother Sita, I shall describe these activities only in brief. Please listen. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Modern Rakshasas, posing as educationally advanced merely because they have doctorates, have tried to prove that Lord Ramachandra is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but an ordinary person. But those who are learned and spiritually advanced will never accept such notions. They will accept the descriptions of Lord Ramachandra and his activities only as presented by Tattvadarshis, those who know the absolute truth. In Bhagavad Gita 4.34, the Supreme Personality of Godhead advises, Tadviti pranipatena paripashnena sevaya upadekshanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarshina. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Unless one is Tattvadarshi in complete knowledge of the absolute truth, one cannot describe the activities of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, although there are many so-called Ramayans, or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, some of them are not actually authoritative. Sometimes Lord Ramachandra's activities are described in terms of one's own imaginations, speculations, or material sentiments. But the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra should not be handled as something imaginary. While describing the history of Lord Ramachandra, Shukadev Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit, "You have already heard about the activities of Lord Ramachandra. Apparently, therefore, 5,000 years ago, there were many Ramayans or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, and there are many still. But we must select only those books written by Tattvadarshis, Gyaninas Tattvadarshina, not the books of so-called scholars who claim knowledge only on the basis of a doctorate." This is a warning by Shukadev Goswami, Rishibis Tattvadarshibhi. Although the Ramayana composed by Valmiki is a huge literature, the same activities are summarized here by Shukadev Goswami in a few verses. So in the next few verses, Shukadev Goswami is going to give a summary of the entire Ramayana. So text 4, to keep the promise of his father intact, Lord Ramachandra immediately gave up the position of king and, accompanied by his wife, Mother Sita, wandered from one forest to another on his lotus feet, which were so delicate that they were unable to bear even the touch of Sita's palms. The Lord was also accompanied by Hanuman, or by another monkey, Sugriva, king of the monkeys, and by his own younger brother, Lord Lakshmana, both of whom gave him relief from the fatigue of wandering in the forest. Having cut off the nose and ears of Surpanaka, thus disfiguring her, the Lord was separated from Mother Sita. He therefore became angry, moving his eyebrows and thus frightening the ocean, who then allowed the Lord to construct a bridge to cross the ocean. Subsequently, the Lord entered the kingdom of Ravana to kill him like a fire devouring a forest. May that Supreme Lord Ramachandra give us all protection. In the arena of the sacrifice performed by Vishwamitra, Lord Ramachandra, the king of Ayodhya, killed many demons, rakshasas, and uncivilized men who wandered at night in the mode of darkness. May Lord Ramachandra, who killed these demons in the presence of Lakshman, be kind enough to give us protection. O King, the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra were wonderful, like those of a baby elephant. In the assembly where Mother Sita was to choose her husband, in the midst of the heroes of this world, he broke the bow belonging to Lord Shiva. This bow was so heavy that it was carried by 300 men, but Lord Ramachandra bent and strung it and broke it in the middle, just as a baby elephant breaks a stick of sugar cane. Thus the Lord achieved the hand of Mother Sita, who was equally as endowed with transcendental qualities of form, beauty, behavior, age, and nature. Indeed, she was the goddess of fortune who constantly rests on the chest of the Lord. While returning from Sita's home after gaining her at the assembly of competitors, Lord Ramachandra met Parashuram. Although Parashuram was very proud, having rid the earth of the royal order 21 times, he was defeated by the Lord, who appeared to be a Kshatriya of the royal order. Carrying out the order of his father, who was bound by a promise to his wife, Lord Ramachandra left behind his kingdom, opulence, friends, well-wishers, residence, and everything else, just as a liberated soul gives up his life and went to the forest with Sita. Purport. Maharaj Dasarat had 3 wives. One of them, Kaikeyi, served him very pleasingly, and he therefore wanted to give her a benediction. Kaikeyi, however, said that she would ask for the benediction when it was necessary. At the time of the coronation of Prince Ramachandra, Kaikeyi requested her husband to enthrone her son Bharat and send Ramachandra to the forest. Maharaj Dasarat, being bound by his promise, ordered Ramachandra to go to the forest according to the dictation of his beloved. And the Lord, as an obedient son, accepted the order immediately. He left everything without hesitation, just as a liberated soul or great yogi gives up his life without material attraction. Text 9. Rakshasvasur vyakrita rupamashuddha buddhes tasya kara trishira Shanamokya bandhun jagne chaturdasha sahas Ramaparaniya kodanda panir atama na uvasa krichram. While wandering in the forest where he accepted a life of hardship, carrying his invincible bow and arrows in his hand, Lord Ramachandra deformed Ravana's sister, who was polluted with lusty desires, by cutting off her nose and ears. He also killed her 14,000 Rakshasa friends, headed by Kara, Trishira, and Dushana. Shita kata shravana deepita richayena srishtam vilokya nripate dasha kandharena jagned puttaina vapusasramato pakrishto maricham ashu vishikena yatakam ugra. O King Parikshit, when Ravana, who had 10 heads on his shoulders, heard about the beautiful and attractive features of Sita, his mind was agitated by lusty desires, and he went to kidnap her. To distract Lord Ramachandra from his ashram, Ravana sent Maricha in the form of a golden deer. And when Lord Ramachandra saw that wonderful deer, he left his residence and followed it and finally killed it with a sharp arrow, just as Lord Shiva killed Daksha. A time when the Srila Prabhupada, he mentions this pastime with Maricha, who was like a magician, had mystic powers, and took the form of a golden deer. And so Prabhupada in November 1977, a few days before his disappearance pastime, he referenced this pastime, and that Prabhupada had expressed that he'd like to go on parikram of Vrindavan on a bullock cart, and some of his devotee caretakers, they said, "Oh, well, that will kill you. Like you don't have the strength. Your condition's not strong enough. That will kill you." And and so Prabhupada, he said better to be killed by Ram than to be killed by Ravana. So he was apparently talking about the conflict, the situation of Maricha. So Maricha's situation is that Ravana is saying, I want you to do this to trick Sita and Ram and Lakshman so that I can kidnap Sita. So Maricha knows that if he doesn't do what Ravana wants, Ravana is going to kill him. And he knows that if he goes and does this trickery, he's going to be killed by Lord Ramachandra. So he decided to take the form of the magical golden deer and be killed by Ramachandra. He figured more auspicious to be killed by Ramachandra than to be killed by Ravana. So Prabhupada referenced this Maricha pastime in the last few days of his manifest pastimes. Text 11. Rakshodamena vrikavad vipine samaksham vaideya raja duhitarya payapitayam pratravane kripanavat priyaya viyukta Sri Sanginam Gatimiti Patayam Chachara. When Ramachandra entered the forest and Lakshman was also absent, the worst of the Rakshasas, Ravana, kidnapped Sitadevi, the daughter of the king of Videha, just as a tiger seizes unprotected sheep when the shepherd is absent. Then Lord Ramachandra wandered in the forest with his brother Lakshman, as if very much distressed due to separation from his wife. Thus he showed by his personal example the condition of a person attached to women. Prabhupada gives a long purport to that. We'll go to text 12. Long purport, like about 3 pages of purport. Dagvatma kritya hata kritya mahan kabandham sakyam vidaya kapi birdaita gatim toy budvata valini hate plava kendra sainyer vela magatsa manujo jabavar chitangri. Lord Ramachandra, whose lotus feet are worshipped by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, had assumed the form of a human being. Thus he performed the funeral ceremony of Jatayu, who was killed by Ravana. The Lord then killed the demon named Kabanda, and after making friends with the monkey chiefs, killing Vali and arranging for the deliverance of Mother Sita, he went to the beach of the ocean. Yad Rosha Vibrama Vivrita Katakshapata Sambranta Nakra Baya Girna Gosha Sindhu Shira Shirhano Parigya Upi Padara Vinda Mupagam Yababasa Itat. After reaching the beach, Lord Ramachandra fasted for 3 days, awaiting the arrival of the ocean personified. When the ocean did not come, the Lord exhibited his pastimes of anger, and simply by his glancing over the ocean, all the living entities within it, including the crocodiles and sharks, were agitated by fear. Then the personified ocean fearfully approached Lord Ramachandra, taking all paraphernalia to worship him. Falling at the Lord's lotus feet, the personified ocean spoke as follows. O all-pervading Supreme Person, we are dull-minded and do not understand who you are. But now we understand that you are the Supreme Person, the Master of the entire universe, the unchanging and original personality of Godhead. The demigods are infatuated with the mode of goodness, the Prajapatis with the mode of passion, and the Lord of ghosts with the mode of ignorance. But you are the master of all these qualities. My Lord, you may use my water as you like. Indeed, you may cross it and go to the abode of Ravana, who is the great source of disturbance and crying for the 3 worlds. My understanding is the name Ravana actually means one who causes anguish and crying. He is the son of Vishrava, but he is condemned like urine. Please go kill him and thus regain your wife, Sitadevi. Oh, great hero, although my water presents no impediment to your going to Lanka, please construct a bridge over it to spread your transcendental fame. Upon seeing this wonderfully uncommon deed of your lordship, all the great heroes and kings in the future will glorify you. Prabhupada's purport. It is said that a sun and urine emanate from the same source, the genitals. When a son is a devotee or a great learned person, the seminal discharge for begetting a son is successful. But if the son is unqualified and brings no glory to the family, he is no better than urine. Here, Ravana is compared to urine because he was a cause of disturbances to the 3 worlds. Thus, the ocean personified wanted him killed by Lord Ramachandra. One feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ramachandra, is omnipotence. The Lord can act without regard to material impediments or inconveniences. But to prove that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and was not merely advertised as Godhead or elected by popular vote, he constructed a wonderful bridge over the ocean. Nowadays, it has become fashionable to create some artificial God who performs no uncommon activities. A little magic will bewilder a foolish person into selecting an artificial god because he does not understand how powerful God is. Lord Ramachandra, however, constructed a bridge over the water with stone by making the stone float. This is proof of God's uncommonly wonderful power. Why should someone be accepted as God without displaying extraordinary potency by doing something never to be done by any common man? We accept Lord Ramachandra as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he constructed this bridge, and we accept Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he lifted Govardhan Hill when he was only 7 years old. We should not accept any rascal as God or an incarnation of God, for God displays special features in his various activities. Therefore, the Lord himself says in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvata takvadeham punarjanma netimameti sarjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. The activities of the Lord are not common. They are all transcendently wonderful and not able to be performed by any other living being. The symptoms of the Lord's activities are all mentioned in the Shastras, and after one understands them, one can accept the Lord as he is. Text 16. Padboda daura kupatir vividadri kutai setum kapindra karakampita paruhangai sugriva nila hanumat pramukher anikher lain kambi bhishana drisha vishadagradaktam. Shukadev Goswami said, after constructing a bridge over the ocean by throwing into the water the peaks of mountains, whose trees and other vegetation had been shaken by the hands of great monkeys, Lord Ramachandra went to Lanka to release Sitadevi from the clutches of Ravana. With the direction and help of Vibhishan, Ravana's brother, the Lord, along with the monkey soldiers headed by Sugriva, Nila, and Hanuman, entered Ravana's kingdom, Lanka, which had previously been burnt by Hanuman. After entering Lanka, the monkey soldiers, led by chiefs like Sugriva, Nila, and Hanuman, occupied all the sporting houses, granaries, treasuries, palace doorways, city gates, assembly houses, palace frontages, and even the resting houses of the pigeons. When the city's crossroads, platforms, flags, and golden water pots on its domes were all destroyed, the entire city of Lanka appeared like a river disturbed by a herd of elephants. Raksha patistadavalokya nikumba kumba durmaksha durmaka surantaka narantakadin putram prahastam atikaya vikampanadin sarva nugan samahino datakumbhakarnam. When Ravana, the master of the Rakshasas, saw the disturbances created by the monkey soldiers, he called for Nikumba Kumbha, Dhumraksha, Durmukha, Surantaka, Narantaka, and other Rakshasas, and also his son Indrajit. Thereafter he called for Prahasta, Atikaya, Vikampana, and finally Kumbhakarna. Then he induced all his followers to fight against their enemies. Lord Ramachandra, surrounded by Lakshman and monkey soldiers, like Sugriva, Hanuman, Gandhamada, Nila, Angada, Jambavan, and Panasa, attacked the soldiers of the Rakshasas, who were fully equipped with various invincible weapons like swords, lances, bows, prasas, rishti, shakti arrows, khadgas, and tomaras. Te nikapara vipatya sarve dvandam bahutamipa Pattivatashvayodhai Dagnor Drumer Giri Gadeshubir Angadadya Shita Bimarsha Hatamangala Ravaneshan. Angada and the other commanders of the soldiers of Ramachandra faced the elephants, infantry, horses, and chariots of the enemy, and hurled against them big trees, mountain peaks, clubs, and arrows. Thus the soldiers of Lord Ramachandra killed Ravana's soldiers who had lost all good fortune, because Ravana had been condemned by the anger of Mother Sita. Purport: the soldiers Lord Ramachandra recruited in the jungle were all monkeys and did not have proper equipment with which to fight the soldiers of Ravana, for Ravana's soldiers were equipped with weapons of modern warfare, whereas the monkeys could only throw stones, mountain peaks, and trees. It was only Lord Ramachandra and Lakshman who shot some arrows. But because the soldiers of Ravana were condemned by the curse of Mother Sita, the monkeys were able to kill them simply by throwing stones and trees. There are two kinds of strength, Daiva and Purusha Kara. Daiva refers to the strength achieved from the transcendence, and Purusha Kara refers to the strength organized by one's own intelligence and power. Transcendental power is always superior to the power of the materialist. Depending on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one must fight one's enemies, even though one may not be equipped with modern weapons. Therefore, Krishna instructed Arjuna, Mamanusmara Yudhyacha, think of me and fight. We should fight our enemy to the best of our ability, but for victory, we must depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 21. Thereafter, when Ravana, the king of the Rakshasas, observed that his soldiers had been lost, he was extremely angry. Thus he mounted his airplane, which was decorated with flowers, and proceeded toward Ramachandra, who sat on the effulgent chariot brought by Matali, the chariot driver of Indra. Then Ravana struck Lord Ramachandra with sharp arrows. Ramastamaha Pushada Purishayana Kanta Samaksham Asata Parita Svavate Chakta Trapasya Palamaja Juku Psitasya Yachamikala Ivakar Turalanga Virya. Lord Ramachandra said to Ravana, you are the most abominable of the man-eaters. Indeed, you are like their stool. You resemble a dog, for as a dog steals eatables from the kitchen in the absence of the householder, in my absence you kidnap my wife, Sitadevi. Therefore, as Yamaraj punishes sinful men, I shall also punish you. You are most abominable, sinful, and shameless. Today, therefore, I, whose attempt never fails, shall punish you. After thus rebuking Ravana, Lord Ramachandra fixed an arrow to his bow, aimed at Ravana, and released the arrow, which pierced Ravana's heart like a thunderbolt. Upon seeing this, Ravana's followers raised a tumultuous sound, crying, alas, alas, what has happened? What has happened? As Ravana, vomiting blood from his 10 mouths, fell from his airplane, just as a pious man falls to earth from the heavenly planets when the results of his pious activities are exhausted. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Kshine Punye Marche Lokam Vishanti. That's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 21. When the results of their pious activities are exhausted, those who have enjoyed in the heavenly planets fall again to earth. The fruit of activities of this material world are such that whether one acts piously or impiously, one must remain within the material world according to different conditions, for neither pious nor impious actions can relieve one from Maya's clutches of repeated birth and death. Somehow or other, Ravana was raised. Ravana was raised to an exalted position as the king of a great kingdom with all material opulences, but because of his sinful act of kidnapping Mother Sita, all the results of his pious activities were destroyed. If one offends an exalted personality, especially the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one certainly becomes most abominable. Bereft of the results of pious activities, one must fall down like Ravana and other demons. It is therefore advised that one transcend both pious and impious activities and remain in the pure state of freedom from all designations. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatven nirmalam. When one is fixed in devotional service, he is above the material platform. On the material platform, there are higher and lower positions, but when one is above the material platform, he is always fixed in a spiritual position. Sagunan, samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kapate. Ravana, or those like him, may be very powerful and opulent in this material world, but theirs is not a secure position, because after all, they are bound by the results of their karma, karmana daiva netrina. We should not forget that we are completely dependent on the laws of nature. Prakrite kriyamanani guni karmani sarvasham hankaravi mudatma kartami timanyate. That's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 27. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. One should not be proud of one's exalted position and act like Ravana, thinking oneself independent of material nature's laws. We can just see the contrast there between what we're reading in our systematic Bhagavatam study in chapter 9 of Srimad Bhagavatam, and there Lord Brahma, who's a real master of the material energy, is the energy of the whole universe, and he's intensely praying to Vishnu. Lord Brahma is intensely praying to Krishna, yes, give me the intelligence and the empowerment to do this service of creating the universe, including all the forms of bodies. Give me the intelligence, and most importantly, please give me your grace that I won't become proud, So here also we see Ravana, who not as much as Brahma, but Ravana is also, he knows a lot of Vedas, he's very powerful due to some austerities, whatever. He's got some powerful position. He's also a master of the material energy, but he became very proud and envious of Lord Ramachandra, made huge mistake by kidnapping Mother Sita. Text 24. Tato nishkramya lankaya yatudanya sahasrasha mandodaya samam tatra pravudanja upadravam. Thereafter, all the women whose husbands had fallen in the battle, headed by Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, came out of Lanka. Continuously crying, they approached the dead bodies of Ravana and the other Rakshasas. Swan bandhuan parishvaja lakshmaneshu bir arditan rudu susvaram dina ganantya atmana, striking their breasts in affliction because their husbands had been killed by the arrows of Lakshman. The women embraced their respective husbands and cried piteously in voices appealing to everyone. "O my Lord, O Master, you epitomize trouble for others, and therefore you were called Ravana. But now that you have been defeated, we are also defeated, for without you, the state of Lanka has been conquered by the enemy. To whom will it go for shelter?" Purport. Ravana's wife Mandodari and the other wives knew very well how cruel a person Ravana was. The very word Ravana means one who causes crying for others. Ravana continuously caused trouble for others, but when his sinful activities culminated in giving trouble to Sitadevi, he was killed by Lord Ramachandra. Text 27. Navai Veda Mahabhaga Bhavan Kama Vashamgata Tejo Nu Bhavam Sitaya Yena Nito Dasham Imam. O greatly fortunate one, you came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita. Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to this state, having been killed by Lord Ramachandra. Purport. Not only was Mother Sita powerful, but any woman who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita can also become similarly powerful. There are many instances of this in the history of Vedic literature. Whenever we find a description of an ideal chaste woman, Mother Sita is among them. Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, was also very chaste. Similarly, Draupadi was one of 5 exalted chaste women. As a man must follow great personalities like Brahma and Narada, a woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, and Draupadi. By staying chaste and faithful to her husband, a woman enriches herself with supernatural power. It is a moral principle that one should not be influenced by lusty desires for another's wife. Matravat paradareshu, an intelligent person must look upon another's wife as being like his mother. This is a moral injunction from Chanakya Sloka number 10. Matravat paradareshu paradravyeshu lostravat atmavat sarva bhuteshu yapashati sapandita. One who considers another's wife as his mother, another's possessions as a lump of dirt, and treats all other living beings as he would himself, is considered to be learned. Thus Ravana was condemned not only by Lord Ramachandra, but even by his own wife, Mandodari. Because she was a chaste woman, she knew the power of another chaste woman, especially such a wife as Mother Sitadevi. So we see Mandodari, even though she's the wife of this great demon Ravana, she's a woman of special great character. Kritaisha vidava lanka vayam cha kulanandana deha krito nam gridranam atmanaraka hetave. O pleasure of the Rakshasa dynasty, because of you, the state of Lanka and also we ourselves now have no protector. By your deed, you have made your body fit to be eaten by vultures and your soul fit to go to hell. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Vibhishan, the pious brother of Ravana and devotee of Lord Ramachandra, received approval from Lord Ramachandra, the king of Kosala. Then he performed the prescribed funeral ceremonies for his family members to save them from the path to hell. Thereafter, Lord Ramachandra found Sitadevi sitting in a small cottage beneath the tree named Simsapa in a forest of Ashoka trees. She was lean and thin, being aggrieved because of separation from him. Seeing his wife in that condition, Lord Ramachandra was very compassionate. When Lord Ramachandra came before her, she was exceedingly happy to see her beloved, and her lotus-like mouth showed her joy. I'll just pause there. I'll pause there. We've been reading for 35 minutes or so. There's a lot more in this chapter and the next chapter about the pastimes of Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman. If anyone at this time would like to share any comments or realizations or ask any questions, if anyone would like to.
I'd like to share, thank you for reading to us. I really appreciate it. Our whole family's listening. We're in the kitchen and we're moving around and stuff, but thank you. Jai.
Thank you, Damayanti. So I'm glad all 4 of you are there, including Garuda, Lakshman, and Siddhanta. Hare Krishna. Thanks for sharing.
Hare Krishna, I have a question.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
In the beginning of that, you said that Lord Ram killed Parshuram. And I was surprised by that because I thought Parshuram was like, quote unquote, good. So if you could explain that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what the verse says, and this is text 6 and 7, it says, while returning from Sita's home after gaining her at the assembly of competitors, Lord Ramachandra met Parashuram. Although Parashuram was very proud, having rid the earth of the royal order 21 times, he was defeated by the Lord, who appeared to be a kshatriya of the royal order. So I don't think Parashuram was killed. Lord Ramachandra defeated him, but he didn't kill him.
Okay, like he won Sita. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So Parashuram is an avatar of Krishna.
Yeah.
So we got God fighting God here. We got God fighting God. And sometimes Prabhupada said there are three realms. There are three realms amongst prominent avatars: Balaram, Lord Ramachandra, and Parashuram. Parashuram, is the one we hear the least about amongst them. So, so we have that sometimes. I mean, like Shiva is a great devotee of Krishna, and Arjuna is a great devotee of Krishna, but like Shiva appeared to fight Arjuna, to test Arjuna. So we got God fighting God, and Lord Ramachandra did not kill Parashuram, but he defeated him. And for those who aren't familiar, it could sound like that's a strange pastime. It said that Lord Ramachandra, he defeated and killed the Kshatriya order 21 times. So what that means is Parashuram, he's living for generations and generations. And those who were supposed to be Kshatriyas and protect the citizens, they were very corrupt for a long period of time, maybe thousands of years. And generation after generation, Parashuram would destroy them. And then I don't know the Ramayana so well, and so here it's only summarized that pastime, but apparently like Parashuram and Lord Ramachandra, they challenged each other, and Lord Ramachandra won, but did not kill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ria. Okay. If there's not other comments or questions at this time, I'll read a bit more. Okay. So this text 32. Aropya ruheyanam bratribhyam hanumad yuta vibhishanaya bhagavan dattvaraksho ganesatam lankam ayushcha kalpantam yayal chinavrata purim. After giving Vibhisan the power to rule the Rakshasa population of Lanka for the duration of one kalpa, Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, placed Sitadevi on an airplane decorated with flowers and then got on the plane himself. The period for his living in the forest having ended, the Lord returned to Ayodhya, accompanied by Hanuman, Sugriva, and his brother Lakshmana. Avakirya mana sukusumer lokapalar pitai pati upagiya manacharita satadvitya dibir muda. When Lord Ramachandra returned to his capital Ayodhya, he was greeted on the road by the princely order, who showered his body with beautiful fragrant flowers, while great personalities like Lord Brahma and other demigods glorified the activities of the Lord in great jubilation. Gomutra yavakam shrutva prataram balkalambaram mahakarunikotapyaj jatilam standile shayam. Upon reaching Ayodhya, Lord Ramachandra heard that in his absence, his brother Bharat was eating barley cooked in the urine of a cow, covering his body with the bark of trees, wearing matted locks of hair, and lying on a mattress of kusha. The most merciful Lord very much lamented this. So Bharat, he didn't go to the forest with Ramachandra, but Bharat's mother wanted him to be king, and she did some intrigue and all of that. But Bharat was very, very reluctant. He didn't want to be king. He had no competitive envy of Ramachandra. He was Ramachandra's servant. And so anyhow, due to fate and the circumstances and the promise of his father to Kaikeyi, okay, so then Bharat ultimately agreed. But Ramachandra practically had to force him. No, you stay here and be king. But we can see that even though Bharat was serving as king in the absence of Ramachandra, he was being as humble. He was, in a sense, he was making himself as miserable as possible. He was doing such austerity, but he was making sure like he wasn't living like a king, eating very austerely, dressing very austerely. So this is Bharat's move. Just so we're clear, Bharat did not have like a jealous, he didn't have this material ambition to be king. So the texts continue. When Lord Bharat understood that Lord Ramachandra was returning to the capital Ayodhya, he immediately took upon his own head Lord Ramachandra's wooden shoes and came out from his camp at Nandigram. Lord Bharat was accompanied by ministers, priests, and other respectable citizens, by professional musicians vibrating pleasing musical sounds, and by learned Brahmins loudly chanting Vedic hymns. Following in the procession were chariots drawn by beautiful horses with harnesses of golden rope. These chariots were decorated by flags with golden embroidery and by other flags of various sizes and patterns. There were soldiers bedecked with golden armor, servants bearing betel nuts, and many well-known and beautiful prostitutes. Many servants followed on foot, bearing an umbrella, whisks, different grades of precious jewels, and other paraphernalia befitting a royal reception. Accompanied in this way, Lord Bharat, his heart softened in ecstasy and his eyes full of tears, approached Lord Ramachandra and fell at his lotus feet with great ecstatic love. Paduke nyasya purata panjalir bashpalochana tam ashlisha chiram durbhyam snapaya netrajer jalai ramo lakshmana sitabhyam viprebhyo ye ha satama tebhya svayam namash chakre prajabhischa namaskritah. After offering the wooden shoes before Lord Ramachandra, Lord Bharat stood with folded hands, his eyes full of tears, and Lord Ramachandra bathed Bharat with tears while embracing him with both arms for a long time. Accompanied by Mother Sita and Lakshman, Lord Ramachandra then offered his respectful obeisances unto the learned Brahmins and the elderly persons in the family, and all the citizens of Ayodhya offered their respectful obeisances unto the Lord. The citizens of Ayodhya, upon seeing their king return after a long absence, offered him flower garlands, waved their upper cloths, and danced in great jubilation. O King, Lord Bharat carried Lord Ramachandra's wooden shoes. Sugriva and Vibhishan carried a whisk and an excellent fan. Hanuman carried a white umbrella. Shatrughna carried a bow and 2 quivers, and Sitadevi carried a water pot filled with water from holy places. Angada carried a sword, and Jambavan, king of the rickshaws, carried a golden shield. Pushpakasto nutastribi stuyamanas chavandibi vireje bhagavan rajan grahais chandra ibodita. O King Parikshit, as the Lord sat on his airplane of flowers, with women offering him prayers and reciters chanting about his characteristics, he appeared like the moon with the stars and planets. Thereafter, having been welcomed by his brother Bharat, Lord Ramachandra entered the city of Ayodhya in the midst of a festival. When he entered the palace, he offered obeisances to all the mothers, including Kaikeyi and the other wives of Maharaj Dasarat, and especially his own mother Kaushalya. He also offered obeisances to the spiritual preceptors such as Vasishta. Friends of his own age and younger friends worshipped him, and he returned their respectful obeisances, as did Lakshmana and Mother Sita. In this way, they all entered the palace. So we can see that Lord Ramachandra, he offered humble, loving obeisances to his stepmother Kaikeyi. even though she's the one who plotted that he wouldn't be king and sent him to the forest. So Dasarat had 3 wives, queens, Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, and Sarmishta. And so Sarmishta, she's the mother of Lakshmana and Shatrughna, who are twins. Upon seeing their sons, the mothers of Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna immediately arose like unconscious bodies returning to consciousness. The mothers placed their sons on their laps and bathed them with tears, thus relieving themselves of the grief of long separation. The family priest or spiritual master of Vasishta had Lord Ramachandra cleanly shaved, freeing him from his matted locks of hair. Then, with the cooperation of the elderly members of the family, he performed the bathing ceremony, Abhishek, for Lord Ramachandra with the water of the 4 seas and with other substances, just as it was performed for King Indra. Evam krita shirastana suvasa svagvilan krita svalan kritae suvaso bir bhatri bir baryaya babao. Lord Ramachandra, fully bathed and his head clean shaven, dressed himself very nicely and was decorated with a garland and ornaments. Thus he shone brightly, surrounded by his brothers and wife, who were similarly dressed and ornamented. Being pleased by the full surrender and submission of Lord Bharat, Lord Ramachandra then accepted the throne of the state. He cared for the citizens exactly like a father, and the citizens, being fully engaged in their occupational duties of Varna and Ashram, accepted him as their father. Purport. So Prabhupada's going to speak now about, let's call it the governmental, the quality of a true ruler of the citizens. Prabhupada writes, people are very fond of the pattern of Ram Rajya, and even today, politicians sometimes form a party called Ram Rajya, but unfortunately they have no obedience to Lord Ram. It is sometimes said that people want the kingdom of God without God. Such an aspiration, however, is never to be fulfilled. Good government can exist when the relationship between the citizens and the government is like that exemplified by Lord Ramachandra and his citizens. Lord Ramachandra ruled his kingdom exactly as a father takes care of his children, and the citizens, being obliged to the good government of Lord Ramachandra, accepted the Lord as their father. Thus, the relationship between the citizens and the government should be exactly like that between father and son. When the sons in a family are well trained, they are obedient to the father and mother, and when the father is well qualified, he takes good care of the children. As indicated here by the words Svadharma Nirata Varnashrama Gunan Vita, the people were good citizens because they accepted the institution of Varna and Ashram, which arranges society in the Varna divisions of Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, and the Ashram divisions of Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. This is actual human civilization. People must be trained according to the different Varnashram occupational duties, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.13. Chaturvanyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagasha. The 4 Varnas must be established according to varying qualities and work. The first principle for good government is that it must institute this Varnashram system. The purpose of Varnashram is to enable people to become God conscious. Varnashrama charavata purushena parapuman vishnur aradyate. The entire Varnashram scheme is intended to enable people to become Vaishnavas. Vishnur asya devata. When people worship Lord Vishnu as the Supreme Lord, they become Vaishnavas. Thus, people should be trained to become Vaishnavas through the system of Varna and Ashram as they were during the reign of Lord Ramachandra, when everyone was fully trained to follow the Varnashram principles. Simply enforcing laws and ordinances cannot make the citizens obedient and lawful. That is impossible. Throughout the entire world, there are so many states, legislative assemblies, and parliaments, but still the citizens are rogues and thieves. Good citizenship, therefore, cannot be enforced. The citizens must be trained, as there are schools and colleges to train students to become chemical engineers, lawyers, or specialists in many other departments of knowledge. There must be schools and colleges to train students to become Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, Brahmacharis, Grahastas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis. This will provide the preliminary condition for good citizenship, Varnashrama Gunanvita. Generally speaking, if the king or president is a Rajarshi, the relationship between the citizens and the chief executive will be clear, and there will be no possibility of disruption in the state because the number of thieves and rogues will decrease. In Kali Yuga, however, because the Varnashram system is neglected, people are generally thieves and rogues. In the system of democracy, such thieves and rogues naturally collect money from other thieves and rogues, and thus there is chaos in every government and no one is happy. But here the example of good government is to be found in the reign of Lord Ramachandra. If people follow this example, there will be good government all over the world. Tretayam Vartamanayam Kalakrita Samo Bhavat Rame Rajani Dharmagye Sarvabhuta Sukha Bahe. Lord Ramachandra became king during Treta Yuga, but because of his good government, the age was like Satya Yuga. Everyone was religious and completely happy. O Maharaj Parikshit, best of the Bharat dynasty, during the reign of Lord Ramachandra, the forests, the rivers, the hills and mountains, the states, the 7 islands, and the 7 seas were all favorable in supplying the necessities of life for all living beings. When Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the king of the world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. All these facilities existed because of Lord Ramachandra's presence as the king of the entire world. A similar situation could be introduced immediately, even in this age called Kali, the worst of all ages. It is said, Kali Kle Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna descends in this Kali Yuga in the form of his holy name, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. If we chant offenselessly, Rama and Krishna are still present in this age. The kingdom of Rama was immensely popular and beneficial, and the spreading of this Hare Krishna movement can immediately introduce a similar situation, even in this Kali Yuga. Text 54. Ekapatni Vratadaro Rajarshi Charita Shuchi Swadharmam Griha Medhiyam Shikshayan Swayam Acharat. Lord Ramachandra took a vow to accept only one wife and have no connection with any other women. He was a saintly king, and everything in his character was good, untinged by qualities like anger. He taught good behavior for everyone, especially for householders, in terms of Varnashram Dharma. Thus, he taught the general public by his personal activities. Premanuvricha Shilena Prashraya Vanata Sati Biariya Chabhavagya Bartu Shita Haran Manam. Mother Sita was very submissive, faithful, shy, and chaste, always understanding the attitude of her husband. Thus, by her character and her love and service, she completely attracted the mind of the Lord. Purport: as Lord Ramachandra is the ideal husband, Ekapatni Vrat, Mother Sita is the ideal wife. Such a combination makes family life very happy. Yadyana Charati Shreshtas Tathad Eve Tarojana. Whatever example a great man sets, common people follow. If the kings, the leaders, and the Brahmins, the teachers, would set forth the examples we receive from Vedic literature, the entire world would be heaven. Indeed, there would no longer be hellish conditions within this material world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th Canto, 10th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Pastimes of the Supreme Lord, Ramachandra. Hare Krishna. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai, Lord Ramachandra Ki Jai. Would anyone like to share anything at this time? Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Appearance Day of Lord Ramachandra Ki Jai, Shri Ram Nomi Ki Jai.
An appearance day of Laura Ki Jai.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Happy birthday, Hare Krishna.
Happy birthday, Laura.
It's such
Thank you.
such an auspicious day to have a birthday. Such an auspicious day. You're being blessed by Sita, Ram, Lakshman, and Hanuman. Very auspicious. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.